Well, here we are, and there you are on the other end. Thank you for joining us, staying with us on the AM show. It's time now for us to dig into the papers, but just the tip of the iceberg if you've not followed what is happening in, that part of Europe between Ukraine and, of course, Russia. Well, Vladimir Putin giving the go-ahead for the bombardment to start as far as Ukraine is concerned. A grave matter of concern. And later on the show this morning, as we talk about, the big stories, the big issues, we'll be taking a close look at that. We'll keep a keen eye on that because we have students in both countries, Ghanaian students, will be interacting on that beat. But joining us this morning, we have Selim Brantier, a policy analyst with Imani Africa. He'll be joining us shortly as we get into the papers for the morning. There you are, Selim. I see you. Good morning.
Morning.
It's a pleasure having you. How are you this morning?
I'm great.
We've been in there in recent times. Some cold sores give you indication that we've seen better times, but God has been good. Anyway, so let's dig into this issue when it comes to what is happening between Russia and Ukraine. Let's start from the international front. What is your take on this? What does it mean for our students? And maybe even more, what does it mean for petroleum products? Now, gas, for example, we know that Russia feeds the rest of Europe about 40% of the gas component that goes into the rest of Europe. European countries, the likes of Germany, the UK, France, and others, have been contemplating getting their sources elsewhere. Qatar has told them they can only supply a maximum of 15%. So even as we talk sanctions and all of that on Russia, it is clear that it is a major juggernaut and that, who knows, it just might get away with this onslaught on Ukraine. What's your take?
To be honest, my first fear is for the students, the Ghanaian students, lots of Ghanaian medical students in Russia and Ukraine. They will be caught up in this in a way in which they would not have bargained for. It also means a lot of work for our Ghanaian diplomatic missions in both countries because they would have to secure the safety of all these students who are going to be caught in the crossfire, unfortunately. The biggest problem here, or the biggest headache that the Ghanaian foreign ministry will be how to make sure that we can corral and account for every single one of these students and make sure they are safe, especially also knowing that it is winter and therefore the weather conditions aren't the best, especially for Ghanaians, looking at where we come from. And then the fact that these countries are particularly very cold countries, most of our students would not understand the local languages well enough and the local cultures well enough. They'll be caught up in this conflict in a way that will be very traumatic for them, unfortunately, because the kind of social protections that they could have had would not be there, and deviants would probably take advantage of that. So for me, that's the biggest concern. And there are quite a lot of Ghanaian students in Ukraine, for example, and so especially in the medical field. So that would be a big issue. Moving beyond that, the economic ramifications are already coming to bear. I hear, as of when I woke up about an hour ago, and I just flipped my phone open, I hear oil prices are now crossing the 100 barrier. All in all, Africa is just going to be a huge economic casualty in this war because by no fault of ours, by no intervention of ours, we are going to bear the economic brunt of a very big war. We are going to face a situation where a lot of industrial activity will not work out. The prices will change, etc., because of the fact that the crude oil prices are going to grind to a halt. A lot of small businesses that depend on lower cost of fuel to be able to make ends meet or cost production to happen. So in all of this, it is the most vulnerable populations that are going to suffer. And even the turmoil it's going to cause in Europe cannot be very well predicted. I hear there's a meeting of the EU in Brussels today, an emergency meeting in Brussels today to try and look at all of these things. The intervention of the forces, NATO, for example, is going to be, in a way, not very clear because of the fact that Ukraine is not having full control of all its borders. So Ukraine cannot even join NATO at the moment. You're looking at the situation where we do not know how the rest of Europe is going to react to this. And of course, the global supply of oil. That is a big, 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 big issue. The global supply of oil is especially to Europe, and gas. Knowing that it's winter means that maybe Russia might be able to get away to a large extent with what they've tried to do, or what they are trying to do. And I wonder how troops are going to be rallied to go and face this, as this could create almost the beginning of a third world war, in quotes, because the likes of Georgia, the likes of other smaller states surrounding Russia are going to be, like they say in tree proverbially, if you see that somebody's house is burning, somebody's beard is burning, you take a cup of water and put by yours. They would also be looking at this to look at how best they can also protect themselves, as it were. So it's really, really, really cages,
right.
Whichever way you look.
It's a complex issue to determine, and it's interesting because while the United Nations was meeting around the same time, Vladimir Putin was likely ordering his troops, with feedback from the Duma, to go ahead and launch this attack. And like you say, it has implications, ripple effects that it likely will have on petroleum, on gas, across the world, not just Europe. But do you feel that on the back of, and the US has been warning that this attack was imminent. You have about 200,000 Russian soldiers that have lined up on the border with Ukraine and now have entered those two cities that have been taken by opposition pro-Russian forces. Do you feel we should have acted more swiftly to get our students, for example, outside of the country, or create some environment of safety for them? You recall that when COVID-19 hit, there were calls for Ghanaian students to have been brought back home and all of that. In this instance, have we been lethargic, slow in our approach? Because now the fight is on.
Yeah, it's difficult to determine. I'm sure all of us were wishing that Russia was just calling its own bluff, and I'm sure we did not expect things to escalate to this manner. But even then, the logistics required, looking at the uncertainty of the situation, it will be very hard to tell because, I don't know whether you are aware, but even the Ukrainian government, for example, has been under a bunch of cyber attacks that knocked out government services and systems. In that kind of environment, it would take only a very rich country, the likes of the US and European countries, for example, to be able to handle some of these things logistically well enough. That's the truth of the matter. I mean, a country with limited resources like Ghana, Ghana is a country where even, was it about a couple of years, 3 years ago, for example, our students who were on scholarship in Ukraine, for example, were even stranded. Some of them didn't even have money. But the government could not pay for their tuition and their feeding fees, etc. And some of them had to rely on family members, etc. This is the kind of situation we've been facing. So unfortunately, whilst the government could have been proactive, it could have also been an effort in futility if, for example, the situation hadn't escalated. I don't think that this is the time to point fingers at the government per se, because this situation is so complex that even the Europeans themselves, who know the history and the culture and how the tensions have been escalating, etc., or where it was supposed to end up, I don't think they themselves were very sure of what was happening. Unfortunately, to the two regions which are declaring independence, Donetsk and the other one, they are also economic powerhouses where there are a lot of Ghanaians. And I believe that one of the issues here is even how to organize that kind of logistics, or how to organize these things.
Right.
in the midst of all the growing tension and the troop movements.
In the midst of COVID-19, in the midst of our own economic turmoil and all of that. So we have our own bits to grapple with.
Yeah.
Right. I'll come right back to you, Selim, on this beat. But let me go as well and find out from the students themselves. Now, the National Union of Ghana Students has issued a statement on this. Yesterday, they put out a statement about their concerns. Julius Kwame Anthony is General Secretary. He joins us. Julius, thank you for having breakfast with us. Can you hear me, Julius? I believe we've lost Julius Kwame Anthony. He's General Secretary for NUGS. But just to give you a brief idea of what they put in their statement yesterday, it was titled Statement on Russian-Ukrainian Territorial Conflict, Safeguard of Ghanaian Students Studying in Ukraine and Russia. And they were basically calling on Ghana to be proactive when it comes to evacuating students if there's going to be any such thing, especially from the eastern provinces where there seems to be the hardest bit of conflict, or the most likely conflict, looking at those two areas that are pro-Russia. When we connect with Julius Kwame Anthony, we'll take more on what his thoughts are as far as NUGS is concerned. Julius, good morning. Hello, Julius. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Now, you put out a statement yesterday concerning what is happening between Ukraine and Russia. Now we know there's a full-blown attack. What is the status right now, or what is your thinking? Have we waited for too long to move out our students?
Yes, I think for too long.
Julius, if you could just speak up a little, we'd love to hear you better.
Yeah, waiting for too long, especially given the fact that there has been no advisory or directive, to Ghanaian students or even Ghanaians in general in Ukraine as to what our mission is to do over there, whether there will be flights available for them to even make payments, and nothing of the sort. Meanwhile, I've been corresponding with our colleagues up there, and I have of all the other embassies, the Embassy of India, the Embassy of Peru, Embassy of Egypt, all of them giving clear directives to their students as to what exactly to do, who to call, all those things. And
so basically, from what you're saying, Julius, you've been interacting with students there. Just to clarify, you've been interacting with Ghanaian students there, and the feeling is they don't know their left from their right. They don't know what the way forward is. You speak of the embassies, the missions of India, Egypt, and the rest, reaching out to their students, telling them what to do, what not to do, and all that. But nothing as far as the Ghanaians are concerned.
Nothing. No formal statements that can be referenced. Nothing of the sort.
How worried are the students, those you've interacted with? How worried are they?
Yeah, they're very worried. As I said to you, some of them who have the means are already in Ghana.
Wow.
I met two of them yesterday who are already in Ghana. And one was even in Kharkiv. And Kharkiv was one of the regions that there were airstrikes today. And I was speaking to him this dawn, and according to him, others are calling him with a whole lot of frustration. I spoke with quite a number, even prior to the airstrikes this morning.
Right.
That was yesterday in the day. And there's a sense of worry, but we don't seem to see any urgency, in response to that level of worry. And with this sort of thing, I don't think that we even need students to start expressing worry before government acts. Once this situation begins, it's incumbent on, our mission over there to give direction. And there's no embassy of Ghana in Ukraine itself directly. It's only in Switzerland, and then there's a consulate who works with those in Ukraine. But up to now, there's been no statement from them to give any direction like the others are doing. And personally, I feel frustrated by it because we were in China, in the advent of COVID, even though COVID is not necessarily war. There's a state of emergency. We were having, if in case of anything, called. When there was the need for evacuation, we were evacuated. So you have a similar situation in what appears to be, tensions and possibilities of an all-out war. We feel that government is not doing enough.
So it seems government is not doing enough. That's what you're saying. Now, having benefited from a scholarship program and spent a year outside of the country, I can know exactly how that would feel. These students you've interacted with, though, are they willing to be brought back home? Are they willing for their academic progress to be truncated? Are they willing to come back to Ghana?
No, the case is that most of the courses have been migrated online. There are interactions with them, since these developments have started. Their courses have been migrated online. So it's not even a case that their academic progress will be truncated of a sort if they are supposed to be moved back temporarily. So they would continue. The ones who have come here are still, continue with their academic work. So yes, there could be that plan for them to be brought home, and they will still have to continue their academic work via online means.
Okay, so tell me, you've given a bit of a roadmap in the statement that you put out, opting for the process that was used in China to be implemented by and large in this instance as well. Now that the fighting has already broken out, it appears we've missed that first window of making an impact. But moving forward, what would you propose to government to do, the Education Ministry and others, to do to safeguard the lives of our brothers and sisters in Ukraine and Russia?
Well, if what we are following from the news portals and all that are anything to go by, the attacks now are largely on military installation and some airports that are affiliated with, Air Force bases of Ukraine and all that, which means that I believe there's still the possibility for civilians to leave. So that window is not completely shut to us, as you would put it. So if government puts in urgent steps now, I think we could still get people out if we want to.
For me, Julius, we have someone who has been there before, in Ukraine to be specific, who now is in the country. Prince, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
That's Prince.
Right. When did you get into Ghana?
I think I touched down. That was on Saturday. Yeah.
On Saturday.
Yeah.
And you were in Ukraine reading what? What program were you reading? Are you done with your program?
I was doing my postgraduate medicine at PN Karazi National University.
Postgraduate medicine. So you're still continuing with the program?
Yes.
Why did you come to Ghana?
For my school, they gave an option up to first people that if you feel you are unsafe.
Prince, if you could just go back. I'm struggling to hear what you're saying. Just go back to what you started.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, better.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, so like I said, my school provided a medium. If you feel you are unsafe, you can leave the country, and then you continue with online medium. So 1st April. That's if nothing changes.
Okay, so if I got you correctly, that if you felt you were unsafe, you could leave the country and continue online.
Exactly, yes, please.
Right. And so you took that option.
Yeah, I took that option.
How easy was it gathering funds to, get back into Ghana, to fly back to Ghana?
Well, it was a bit tough because looking at that, I wasn't the only student flying out. Other countries have also ordered their nationals, so the airport was busy. And then people were flying in and out. Flying out most majorly. So the ticket prices were, high as compared to the normal we know. Yes, like an airline like Turkish Air.
Right.
The ticket price was around 1,300 upwards.
Right. I hear other countries, India, Egypt, and even other African countries have been, given protocols for their students to follow and aiding them evacuate where possible. Have you had any such communication from our embassy in Kiev? It appears we've lost. Is that Prince we just lost? Unfortunately, we've lost Prince, but we'll get him back on the line and just clarify some of those matters. Of course, what we're doing is not necessarily to pile pressure on the administration, but also to let them know what is happening there, have first-hand information, and aid our brothers and sisters. But the footage you see in the background, scenes from Kiev, in Ukraine. Julius, so just to wrap the conversation with you and get back to Selom Brantier, I was asking you, what is the way forward from where you sit in just about some 30 seconds?
Well, the conflict in Ukraine have already made some sort of appeal of decision of the sort to the ministry. So we will be referencing that with correspondence to ask them to take urgent steps. And then we are considering petitioning Parliament in the event that we feel that the ministry is not acting very fast, so that the committee will take the matter up today on that issue. The rest will be to keep, touch with our colleagues back there and take updates from them so that we will well inform the kind of decisions we take. But in the interim, whoever is listening, the ministry work, don't always need to wait for things to escalate before we act.
Right.
What were we doing when other nationals were giving directives? In fact, the Chinese, when they didn't have intention to evacuate, at least gave directives, stock up food, do this. Why can't we give similar directions to our people, even if it's a situation that we cannot evacuate, so that they know what exactly they are doing out there? Why can't we do that?
Right.
Whoever is listening, these things should be done. They should get to work. This attitude of waiting till things escalate is becoming too much, and it doesn't help anybody.
All right. Thank you, Julius, for joining us with your thoughts on this development. Julius Kwame Anthony is General Secretary NUGS, and he joined us there. Let me go back to Prince, who has actually been there in Ukraine at the center of a place that would have been bombarded. Prince, welcome back. So I was asking about what other countries have done and whether you've got any similar contact from our mission in Kiev.
Yeah, so like I said, well, unfortunately, we don't have an embassy in Kiev.
Right.
We have an honorary consulate designate.
Right. So it's a consulate, is it?
Yes, honorary consulate designate. But as it stands now, honestly, I haven't seen any publication being issued out from any of our correspondents.
Right. And how disturbing is that as an international student, you found yourself in a foreign country and all this was happening around you, you together with your colleagues, and there was absolutely no communication? How did that make you feel?
Well, at the point I thought there's some negligence somewhere because entirely in Majuli, a lot of people or a lot of students there are reading medicine. And then even if attitude of our governance, all governments is like this, that it will now give us the alternative that, okay, why should we come back to even serve our mother country when we are done?
Oh,
so,
wow.
I felt a bit disappointed.
That made you even contemplate, if you were left on your own there, when you're done with your studies, you're not even contemplating coming to serve Mother Ghana.
Definitely, because if I'm not seeing any help from anywhere, then... Yeah.
Right. So for you, what is the way forward? What are you going to do next? Yes, online studies and all that. What is the way forward for you?
Yeah, so like I said, I just stick to my school directives, and they are given. I received a directive from my school email indicating bomb shelter areas where we can hide, provided there's any emergency. But at least the government should also do something, like issue a communique, giving us, like just emphasizing with us that they are with us. Then we know that at least we are not alone.
Right.
And if something can be, even if a major evacuation cannot be done, we can see how things will roll, especially the eastern and the central corridors of Ukraine, where there are a lot of Ghanaian students to get a good side in either of the western side. Even if we understand the government is broke and everything, but majorly, if something can be done on that aspect, then we'll be very good.
Prince, just briefly, in maybe some 5 seconds, give me an answer to this. I'm sure you engaged other students, your friends or colleagues in Ukraine as well.
Yeah, I think
did they give indication? Did they give indication they also wanted to come back to Ghana? All of them?
I mean, that's what they have been. I've been just receiving calls this dawn because when they held when they had the explosion, they were all, I mean, anxious and then thinking of best alternatives. So if there's any alternatives to come back, why not? They will all jump on it.
All right. Prince, thank you for joining the conversation. Prince just returned on Saturday from Ukraine. Salam. So that is the picture we have here. My apologies for keeping you this long, but we had to hear from the horse's own mouth. So I'll give you some 30 seconds. How do you digest all of what they've said? Slow response. Our students are stranded. They want to see something from government. Your quick response.
Yeah, absolutely. It is quite unfortunate that from what I'm hearing about the students, that in all of this, there was no instruction given from the Ghanaian Foreign Ministry to assist the students, when we all know. And the students that are there, they are not just they are the rich from rich backgrounds, poor backgrounds, different kinds of backgrounds. These are the future of the nation, and they are going out there to go and try and improve their skills and come and help the country. It's very unfortunate, for example, that you would hear that nothing has been done so far. Right now, as we are speaking, the commercial airspace in Ukraine has been locked down, so you cannot even fly around even if you wanted.
Right.
I don't know, but the government needs, within the next 2 to 3 hours, the foreign ministry needs to come up with a statement. If this government was able to put parliamentarians on a private jet for them to fly in and come and vote for, in favor of the e-levy, they should be able to put resources together to ensure that at least there is a safe transport of Ghanaian students who are in the affected regions in the eastern part of Ukraine to a safer place. They should be able to liaise with either the UN or the EU or whichever NATO or whichever multinational coalition that exists that can help ensure the peace. And they should be able to liaise with them and come up with a concrete statement within the next 6 hours or so. As much as it's the diplomatic nightmare, it looks like the Ghanaian foreign ministry has a lot to be blamed for if any of our students are stranded.
Let's quickly get into some major stories from the papers. I'll just pick out the most topical ones so we can talk about them. But I'll read out from the Daily Graphic. Ghanaian foreign students bemoan financial challenges. That's on page 13 of the paper. Comenda Sugar Factory acquires 20,000 acres for plantation. And then there's plain-spoken engagement. Council of State meets minority consensus building high on agenda. But let's take a quick look at this one. Overruling my decisions unconstitutional. And the speaker had some choice words for his first deputy, Joseph, or Joe Osei-Wusu, Joe Wise as we call him, saying that his penchant for overruling his rulings is unconstitutional, illegal and offensive, telling some members of parliament to shut up and telling them that if they insist on doing some of the things they've done, creating quite a ruckus on the floor, he would have some of them thrown out of parliament. Some say stern moves by the speaker, and yes, what must pertain if you look at other parliaments, but has the speaker overshot it? Salam.
This year's parliament is one of a kind, so it will require a very firm hand of a speaker to be able to ensure that any machinations that are being brought on the floor are still in line with parliamentary business. So I believe that sometimes, from what we've seen about how unruly they've been, especially in the last 3 months or so, it is very clear that they need a very firm hand to steady that ship. And if it means telling them, talking down to them like school children to make sure that the right thing is done, we probably just have to have that, because I think that we cannot have a weak speaker manning the events, especially with the kinds of tensions that we are seeing in Parliament with regards to certain crucial bills. So we would probably need a very firm and strong hand. And it is a reminder to them that, yeah, they might have privileges, but they still have to follow protocol. They still have to follow rules. And it also means that the speaker himself should also be able to subject himself to such rules and protocols as and when required, so that he does not become a lord of the manor or some kind of bully in the house, if we were to put it that way, because these are very, very strange times, if you put it that way, especially with regards to the conduct of Parliament.
All right.
And therefore, you need that firm, steady hand, no matter what.
One constituency, $1 million initiative, 162 million Ghana cedis invested into 1,473 projects in 6 coastal regions. Business Finder newspaper. That's the final story I'll do because the other newspapers as well also carry similar stories. But my final take with you, Selim, as quickly as you can. Sarah Adwasafo, Member of Parliament for Dominic Kwabenya, and all the things that have happened, now a suggestion that she will be or has been sacked. Have we been fair to the Dominic Kwabenya MP, especially considering that some say her health is not what it could be? What is your quick take?
I mean, so these are internal party matters. However, she represents a constituency which is a constituency of all Ghanaians and not the NPP party. And to the extent that she's checking her duties in Parliament and then she's giving ultimatums and rules on how she's going to behave and whether she's going to represent her own people, then it means that she probably does not deserve to be in the seat, health-wise or not. I mean, if she's not in good health, then the best thing is to have resigned to allow for somebody else who is ready to lead the wishes of the people of the Dominic Kwabenya constituency and assist in lawmaking for the whole country to take the reins and handle that. If she's not in the right capacity to do that for whatever reason, right, the honorable thing to do will be to resign. It's as simple as that, because it's not a party thing. She represents the wishes and aspirations of a community and not the NPP.
Salam, Akbe Kata. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. I knew that would get you. Have a good morning. And we proceed from here. A lot of action in the Champions League yesterday. My very own Red Devils are drawing with Atletico Madrid in an interesting encounter. But our apologies for bringing sports this late. It had to do with the Russian-Ukrainian situation that we had to bring you some details on in the course of the news review. But up next, we do have sports with Muftau Abdullahi. Stay.